Hello and welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour, the weekly bridge to the future of the piano tech community. I'm David Anderson.
And I'm Ethan Janney. And we're here to ask great questions, and then we'll shut up and listen to some of the authorities, experts, and most outstanding personalities in our little world of pianos.
So, put on your best set of headphones and let's get started.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. Good to see you again. Hey Phil Bondi, how's it going? Good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit, so pleasant surprise. Great. I'm going to give a quick intro here, and for those people that are streaming in online, so they know what's going on, and then we'll dive into the session today. So, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour, which is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. Piano Tech Radio Hour brings you some of the most fascinating folks and topics in the piano industry, from great technicians to piano players even, and folks who will own piano stores or make pianos. We try to bring you an interesting topic each week. And then Piano Technicians Masterclasses is cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And we've been putting out streaming online content live for you to learn from for several years now, starting from back in 2017. We started with a lecture with Boaz Kirschenbaum on voicing, which is still one of our greatest lectures in the library. And voicing's been a popular topic. We've got a few more folks teaching about voicing. And we've had master classes over the years, and then we've grown to provide some convention experiences, multi-day events, multiple classes, multiple instructors. Most recently, our September convention was a little bit of a twist, even further on the convention concept. We had several days over the course of several weeks, and we brought you folks, as we always do, from all over the world, including Germany, and we've brought you folks from I'm trying to think, where was David Clavins? We brought in folks basically from all over the globe, and it's been a great time. So I want to give you a little bit of a preview of next week's session and chat a little bit with folks, and that's kind of the agenda for today. So as I mentioned, I think last week, we're going to have a young man who's probably a little bit older than he was last time I met him, but still you could call him a young man. His name's Jonathan Cleghorn. This is a fellow that I met back in Peru around 2015, 2016 when I was living there and calling myself an ambassador of pianos to Peru. I did some touring of the country, meeting folks that did things with pianos and learning about what's going on with pianos in Peru. And Johnathan happened to be one of the folks that I met. He actually reached out to me. Somehow he found out that I was there. Maybe I had a blog, and maybe he reached out and found me out that way, and said, "Hey, I've got this antique Chickering piano with a brown action. My uncle has a mission in this little town called Urubamba in Peru, and this piano just happens to be there and it doesn't quite work, so I want to make it a project to fix it up." And that was what he was in the midst of at the time that I met him. He invited me to come and see him and help with the piano. That was around, it was somewhere around February, I think, of 2016. And and I went and I joined him and I helped him string the piano a little bit, and he showed me the action and told me about the project. Quite an undertaking when you're working on a piano in a country where not only are there not a lot of resources for piano technicians, but on top of that, he was in an area of the country that was not, heavily trafficked, right? So even then, in order to get in touch with people that might be able to help him, he had to do quite a bit of searching and traveling, and had to, kind of ship in his own equipment and supplies in order to perform the tasks that he wanted to achieve. So anyways, I've reached out to him, and he'll be joining us next week to teach us a little bit about that experience that he went through, as well as show us a little bit about that Brown action, and kind of it's a unique type of piano action that only existed for a little bit of time. And so that should be fun. And then we're lining up some other great guests in the coming weeks. I'm in talks. I won't say with who, but with some other cool people to be on the show, and that's going to be really fun. Let's see, Susan. It says your speaker isn't working, but it is. You're hearing some other sounds, but not my voice. Wow, that's interesting. Well, I'll say, is anybody else having trouble hearing me? Yeah, okay. I'll just write this for you, Susan. Everyone else can hear me. Sorry, not sure what the issue is. All right, cool. All right, hopefully Susan will figure that out. So, yeah, I wanted to, hammering and sanding. Interesting. I'm not sure why you're hearing hammering and sanding, Susan. Sounds like something constructive is going on, no matter what. So I wanted to go back a little bit over my experience in Peru, which is very interesting, and tell you a little bit about the Erard piano that I came into contact with there. And so just to refresh your memory, I'll share my screen and show you a little bit of the photos and the blog post that I had up. Let me make sure I got that loaded. Let's see here. Okay. And let's see what we got. Here we are. Okay, I'll load this post up just to give you a little bit of context, and show you what's going on there, and then we'll talk a little bit about that piano. All right. Okay, so you should be able to see this. Awesome. All right, so this is actually Lima, Peru, Part 1. Let's go through this post first. So, Erard Grand Piano among the books of El Virrey, Lima, Peru. So, this is interesting. My wife's actually an anthropologist, and part of the reason that we were there in Peru is that she was doing research for her PhD. And, in order to do that, she had to visit various places, collect various documents, and meet various people, so on and so forth. And so there was a book that she needed for her research. And so she thought she would check this bookstore, which is in Lima. It's just a few blocks from the presidential palace in Peru. It's actually has a long legacy in Lima, Peru, as a bookstore that carries some really great books. I think that there's there's 2 locations at the time of that particular bookstore, and it's called El Virrey. I believe that means like the Viceroy or something like that. And so anyways, at that point, I wasn't really thinking about pianos on this day trip, that we had taken. And I said, well, I'll just go along with her and while she's going to look for a book. And so I found myself in this bookstore in Lima, Peru. And of course, right when you walked in the door, there was this piano, and it was an Erard piano, and it's straight strung, and it's clearly quite old and just kind of sitting there. And so while my wife was looking for books, I got into an interesting conversation with a woman who was a proprietor of this establishment. And I said, hey, what's going on with this piano? And of course, keeping in mind, this is me, my Spanish was pretty good. This is early on in our visiting. So just trying to communicate with her in my broken Spanish, her broken English, and learn about this piano. But what we gathered is that I think it was father or grandfather received this piano as a gift, I believe from an ambassador in Chile. And, the piano had been in the family since then and, just kind of held on to it. And I think at one point just decided, okay, I'm going to put it out in the bookstore. Maybe she wasn't sure what to do with it, or, she thought it would be a nice way to display the piano. And so I took a rough look at the piano. I didn't have any tools and, just said, oh, this is interesting. Hey, could I come back sometime and maybe dive a little bit deeper? And actually what's interesting is we were not living in Lima. We were only there for a few days at that time. And so we actually had to travel on and go to a town called Arequipa, which we were primarily living in. And it wasn't until, I believe, several months later that I actually got a chance to get back there and take a second look at this piano. And when I did, I got to do some cool stuff like, check what's the serial number and try to do a little bit more research and open it up and take it apart. And I even tried to tune it because I realized really quickly that, the strings, in this particular case, if I remember correctly, the strings were individually strung. They were, brittle, but also I believe that the tuning of the piano was probably not 440 pitch, or like the intended tuning of the piano was probably not 440 pitch. So in going through, and trying to tune the piano, that was sort of its own challenge. So what I ended up doing was kind of tweaking it, getting it in a little bit better condition than it was, and then just sort of exploring and taking some photos and checking things out. So this is a piano from the outside. That's kind of exactly what it looks like. Oh, and also recollecting, it was pretty cool. I got to tune the piano and then have some people play it, and that was also a really nice part of it because it really hadn't been tuned or taken care of in a while. So El Virrey bookstore is the bookstore, and this is pretty cool. This is an emblem on the piano. Let's see if I can zoom in here. So let me open this in a new tab. Let's see what else we got here. There's a picture of the fall board. And yeah, very cool, huh? Exposition, London. I can't tell what year that is. 1857. In Paris, 18, not sure. Exposition, maybe a university or something. In 1867 as well. Very cool little emblem of the piano. And let me see here. I'm going to go on to the next post. Let's see here. Oh, I wanted to show you a little bit more on the bookstore. Let me get that open in a new tab. Hopefully that link still works. And actually, I'll open this one too. It's the previous post. And actually, it won't be for a little bit. I'm going to go to the next post here as we move forward. Let's see here if that's at the top. Comments, what happens when you tune outdoor piano? Let's move on here. Yeah, this is actually really cool. So maybe I will show you this. Maybe I'll show you this first. Maybe I'll take this in order a little bit. So I'm going to take you to the previous post, which I think was the first post in the series. and then we'll talk about whatever ones make sense along the way here. So this is actually when we first arrived in Lima, and I first sort of started making connections and talking to people about pianos. We got a hotel stay in Lima, and I think it was paid in part by like the what is it called? The consulate from the United States. We were there because my wife's on a Fulbright scholarship, and again, lo and behold, like all these interesting surprises with pianos. There's a piano in this hotel. This is a view from the like an upstairs balcony. They have a lot of like courtyard areas in Peru, in buildings and hotels and things like that. And here's a piano. And actually, what's really interesting about this piano is this door, I think that I'm looking through here, is kind of open to the outside. And then this door at the other end, you can close it. It goes to the rest of the building. But the piano itself, what's really, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're in a warmer climate, you're used to this, but I wasn't that used to this. This piano is, there was no isolation really between it and the elements of whatever the outside weather was, and Lima's relatively humid. It's not terribly humid compared to other climates, but it is pretty humid. But it's also interestingly like a desert, very close to a desert climate. So Lima has this very interesting combinations where the land is very close to a desert climate, but it's also on the ocean. And so, there ends up being humidity in the air, but not a lot tends to grow. There's not necessarily a lot of rainfall per se. But yeah, so anyways, this piano was open to the elements. And I went and talked to them and, convinced them that I was, a reputable piano technician enough for them to give me the key to the piano, open it up, and give it a free tuning, as part of my activities there of goodwill. And interesting thing about this piano is they said that it actually hadn't been tuned in quite a long time, and it really wasn't that far to tune. That was very fascinating to me, given that it was in this sort of open exposure, to the elements in Peru. Now, I think when I later talked to a fellow who had been, his family had been, in the piano business in Peru for multiple generations. And what he explained it to me is that even though the climate might be unique, sort of this desert climate with some humidity in the air, it was very consistent. So, year round, it didn't change a lot. And then therefore, then didn't mean that the piano was necessarily going to go in and out of tune a lot. So I found that interesting. Learn a lot about how pianos respond to climates when you travel. And in this particular case, you know, it was interesting to see, this relationship between, oh yeah, okay, I know that from, what experts say about pianos, that it's more the changes in humidity that affect the tuning. But to actually see it in practice, this was pretty cool. So this was a Bluthner piano. There were a lot of German pianos in Peru, not so much Steinways. I ran across like maybe one Yamaha, but a lot of German pianos. And as you can see here, this is like open to the elements, as I said. And yeah, I went through, I got to tune the piano and give it a whirl. And it was a beautiful piano. Actually, I'll share the sound. You can hear a little bit of me playing it, actually. Let's see here. Let's expand that. Actually, pretty nice sounding piano there, sitting in the hotel. It's always interesting. Oh, sharing the wrong screen there. It's always interesting, finding these pianos that really don't necessarily get played that much, um, and getting a chance to check them out. Okay, see if I can get this share going. There we go. All right, so that was sort of the first piano that I encountered there in Peru. Interestingly enough. This is actually a short a short trip back to Brooklyn. In this particular post, I talked about how I came back to Brooklyn and some guys that were on a tour, they needed a piano tuned, and they needed it tuned fast. And so I was the guy that could run up and like tune it for them before the gig that they had. And so what ended up happening is they 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 had this piano they were traveling with. They were as touring musicians in a van, and so we agreed upon a mutually agreed upon location. I showed up. They showed up. They unpacked the piano from the van, left it for me to tune, and then came back and picked the piano up from this like outdoor location. So not one of the most ideal situations for tuning a piano, but all in the name of rock and roll. That one worked out. These are the two guys that were in this band tuning that, working on that piano, and then they dropped it off. Unfortunately, at like we wanted to meet at a place that was very easy to find. So ended up in this really busy intersection. So that didn't help in the tuning process, having all the traffic whiz by, but I did my best. Here's these guys hanging out while I'm tuning this upright piano. And then I think this is them giving it a whirl after I was done. And this was some of my audience for the tuning that day. It's kind of a kooky woman with a kooky poodle here, watching the whole thing go down. She painted the toenails. This is a little bit of a taste of the kind of weird world of Brooklyn, New York. And I guess I'll show you guys this video too. This one's pretty funny. Let me make sure I'm sharing the audio on this one. Get a little taste of musical interludes as well. Let's see here. Oh, I have a question here in the chat. Let's see here. That is a good question. So Chuck asked this question privately. Did the Bluthner have an extra chorus of unplayed strings in the treble? They vibrate sympathetically. I don't remember if that was the case. But yeah, you're right. That could have been something. It did have a certain ring to it that I found quite ethereal and maybe not typical in different makes and models of pianos. That looks like we've got some chats here. The Bluthner. So there's a question from Larry about the year that the piano was made. Now, if we're talking about the Erard piano, I believe it was 1885. It could have been even older than that, but I believe it was 1885. And that was something interesting I was going to go into. Actually, I'll take a minute and go into that part of it just because we asked about the age of it. And I tried to find it before we started this session, but I didn't get a chance to bring it up. So when I found the piano, I also was kind of like, asking people about it online and going to some various like piano chat rooms and stuff like this. And what was incredible was so I gave, I think, the serial number, and some guy replied to me and he said, hey, here's the year it was made. And he said, here's the year it was made. Here's the address that it was delivered to. when it was first sold, and I think he even gave me like the price it was paid and the name of the person that owned it. And I was like, "Whoa, how did you have that?" And so he linked me to these archives. I believe they're publicly available archives, and you can actually look at the Erard uh, book of sales for pianos, and they will list, the serial number of the piano, who it was sold to, and like the date and the address of delivery and stuff like that. Really, really cool. And they've got a high quality scan of it that you can archivally look at online, and it's handwritten records of all this stuff. Really cool. Um, the Another question from Nancy: did the Erard have a full plate for straight metal supports or no plate at all? It definitely had a plate. And in terms of straight metal supports, I believe it had. I think I might have some photos of it we can bring in later, and maybe I'll try to dig up some more for a future date because I know I took more in my archives. But yeah, if definitely had a metal plate. It definitely had straight supports, but I'm not sure if it had four. Got another comment here. Luis Moreau Gotchek gave concerts in Lima and Arequipa in the late 1860. Could have played this. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I'm curious how you know about that, Larry. If you want to share some more info. Um, and then let's see. Okay, so that's all the comments for now. Let me get back to this. I'll show you guys this video from this particular occasion. Let's see here. I'll get to share the screen. Make sure we got the audio going, and get over here. Cue this video up. This is a little bit of my abstract piano playing, so hopefully you'll find it enjoyable as an accompaniment to the video. I had fun piecing this one together, and it's got a little bit of humor humor to it. All right, so that was quite a fun experience. You got a little sense of the background noise. That siren was actually in the background. That kind of stuff was going on while I was tuning, and then of course, that was a spectacle to everybody walking by. So I got all sorts of interesting characters interrupting and having conversation. So that was pretty fun. All right, let's see what the next one. Oh, actually, this one's pretty cool. Um, so this is kind of in chronological order. This is a visit I made to Alex Kostakis's shop at AC Piano Craft in New York City, and we actually had Alex the um, on the program several weeks ago, or several months ago, probably at this point. But he's kind of a staple of the New York City piano rebuilder scene, and his family has sort of deep integration with Steinway pianos. I believe his father worked for Steinway and then went off on his own, and then sort of became a kind of a almost exclusive Steinway piano rebuilder and opened the shop. And then Alex, of course, took it over and has been working through it ever since. This shop is actually located in Queens, New York, so it's easy to get to from Manhattan. It's kind of like if you go from like Carnegie Hall and where all of the top piano stores are in Manhattan, you just take the train right over the East River. You can get to Alex's piano shop. It's very unassuming on like the third or fourth story of a warehouse. But despite that, he has this really cool, spacious workshop and a full team of technicians working on various parts of the rebuilding process, as well as a pretty cool little showroom with some very nice, mostly Steinway pianos and then some other fine piano makes. Anyways, in this particular case, there was a fall board that we needed a lacquer chip repair on, and we didn't have the capabilities to do that on our team. So we hired someone from Alex's team named Michael Huarang, and we, not only did we hire him to do the work, but we went over and we kind of got a chance to watch him do what he does, which is kind of fun, and got a good sense of the process. I'm not much of a lacquer finish, repair person, but with examples like this, it gives you some confidence to work on that type of stuff. So this is actually a little bit of an overview of the process. You can see the chip there. Here's me and my teammate Daniel checking it out. We matched the color of the stain, and then he sort of applies a stain to the bare wood in the chipped area. He uses this thing called a burn stick to use the raw material to fill in the chipped area. He's got this special oil lamp for heating the metal to get this material on there. When the knife is hot enough, it melts a small bit of that material from the burn stick. He applies it to the chipped area. He gets some 320 grit sandpaper to do a primary sanding of the lacquer patch. Got a wooden block, so he has some backing on the paper. He sands the patch so that it's smooth and blends it with the surrounding area. And after the first sanding, the patch is still rough, so you can kind of even see, maybe I can show you a larger image of that. So it doesn't look very clean after the first sanding, but then he goes through using a wet fine grit sandpaper and goes over it. And then he uses some polishing compound on a final step. And he kind of brushes this kind of white polishing compound on, goes over it with a cloth to get a smooth surface. He sprays some wax. He rubs the wax onto the finish. And, when all is said and done, it looked pretty much brand new. And I actually have a video of this one as well. And you can actually see me playing a piano in Alex Kostakis's workshop, not in his workshop, in his showroom that I mentioned. Let me see if I have a zoomed in version of that. Yeah, here you get a little bit closer look at how, when we get the first sanding, it looks pretty rough. I feel like if I was doing my first lacquer repair, and I was all on my own, I would think I screwed it up at this point. But that's just sort of the raw material. All right, so let's check out this video. This one's pretty cool as well. Again, you'll get a little bit of my piano accompaniment for this video. Share screen. Make sure we got the audio going. And we'll maximize this one. All right, ready to roll. So you get a little fun taste of the workshop, the process, and you got to see a little bit of the showroom area, which is pretty cool. You could catch a few seconds of a glimpse of it at a time, but really beautiful pianos. They do a great job there at AC Piano Craft. All right, let's see here. Let's catch another one of these. See if there's any comments coming in here. Larry, what a fun, a piano pop-up. Yeah, Chuck says. Larry says, published as Notes of a Pianist, a fascinating read. He witnessed a revolution, I believe, in Peru. Oh, that would be a good book to read. I should have read that while I was visiting. Very cool. All right, yeah, let's continue on here. This is pretty fun. Let's see what the next post has in store for us. Okay, so that was that chronologically. Let me get this. Probably blocking the view, the comments. Okay. Oh, the next one is a harp. Actually, that was kind of fun. So it's a very interesting, ecosystem in Peru. Musical ecosystem, instrumental ecosystem. This was still in Lima. I think this was back during the same visit where I visited that Erard piano. And let's see. That's probably just a link to his Wikipedia post. We can take a look at that in a minute if we need to. But yeah, this is Lima, and just kind of, I think what happened was I heard there was like a music area of the city, where they had lots of music stores and, selling various things. Either that or I just ended up walking around there and coming across it. This is a view, a lot of shops. Some of them have kind of similar items. Some of them have their own unique twist, but a lot of music shops. You can see some drums coming out the window of this one. You see a guitar over here. Maybe I can open that one up so we get a zoom in as well. There's a look at inside the doors of the music shop, just keyboards and all kinds of amplifiers and speakers and stuff like that. But then along a side street, I came across this tiny little shop, and this says Arpas Espino, and Arpas just means harp, and Espino is I believe the last name of the Clever Espinosa Verde was the name of the builder in that harp shop. So this is really fun because again I spoke like not great Spanish. I had some background, but I was able to introduce them to myself, and in my level of Spanish, they had very little English. Explained to them that I was, a piano tuner and I was interested in what they were doing. Could I take some pictures? Could we talk a little bit? And so yeah, this is their workshop, and not too much different than what we might be doing. And then here's someone in the shop playing the harp, and so you'll get a chance to hear what that sounds like. And these are the two guys that were working together. It was basically like an apprentice type apprenticeship type situation we're looking at here. One of these guys was the master, the other apprentice. I think this was the master harp maker, and he was the apprentice hanging out. And this is a little bit of a map of Peru or of Lima and kind of where this all was located. The bookstore was here, and then the musical area was over here in that spot. So not too far away, but also not too close. I think we had to take a little bit of a trip over here, and that's where all these music stores were. All right, so a close-up look of that picture. There's actually a harp sitting outside we didn't see. That's pretty cool. And then let's check out this another musical interlude, which is pretty fun. Documentary. Oh no, did I put that in here or not? Here it is, yeah. Great. So yeah, you get a sense of the shop and the similarities and differences, and basically you've got a lot of similar concepts going on. And the piano's a harp in essence, with some hammers to hit the strings instead of plucking them, and you've got to have some sort of a soundboard here that has to have some way of taking the sound on and letting some of it through, and also having enough resistance to allow the impedance to allow the strings to continue to vibrate and have some sound. So there's definitely some parallels here with the piano, but that's pretty cool. And let's see about the next one. First piano in Arequipa. So this was all this was all previously in Lima, and this is now after I traveled to the area of Arequipa, and I went to my first concert there, and they had a Peruvian American, you see the flag of Peru and the flag of the United States, cultural center. And these are very popular in Peru, these sort of transnational cultural centers. Like they had one for the United States, they had one for France, they had one for Italy, Germany, and they would be just part of the central downtown areas of a lot of cities. And so at this particular place, there'd be a lot of opportunities for people to learn English, experience American culture or culture of the United States, at least North America. And then there would be a French one, and you could go there and Peruvian people or locals could study French and, experience French culture. Very cool. Of course, we have stuff like this in the United States, but I didn't find it to be as prominent, right, here as you would see in Peru. So that was a cool feature. This is actually a piano that I visited because it was for sale, and it just gave me an opportunity to sort of meet and engage with someone. And actually, this someone that I engaged with, he introduced me to what will become a very good friend of mine in Peru, a guy that I wrote about in this blog as well, Fernando Torres Hernandez. And he was actually a cultural ambassador of the Peruvian government in various capacities. And this guy that I met looking at his Bechstein piano, he was a lawyer, and so he knew Fernando and introduced me to Fernando. Again, it was a situation where my Spanish was not great, but I conveyed to him enough of what I was all about that he was able to make that connection. And then then this is just a glimpse of that first concert that I went to in Peru. And now you get to see this is Fernando Torres Hernandez, and he actually I guess I met him. So the concert that I said that I went to, I believe what happened was that somebody told me he was going to be there, or Fernando introduced me or told me that this concert was happening and maybe we could meet there and say hi. So I met at the concert and got a chance to meet and chat with Fernando as well. And I have a video here of my first meeting with Fernando, and he spoke English, which is pretty cool. And so you get a chance to maybe meet him and get to know him, as well as this fellow who also became a friend. He was a lawyer in Peru as well, and he played the drums and he played jazz, and he was very excited to get to know me because I played the piano and I played jazz. We actually got together after meeting at this concert several times, and had some jam sessions at his house, which was fun. But yeah, let's meet Fernando, because that's pretty fun. All right. The sound should be coming through still, but let me know if it's not. Hola.
How are you?
Hernando.
Nice to meet you.
¿Hablo inglés? ¿Hablas inglés?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
French, Italian,
Oh.
Finnish, German, Swedish.
Wow.
No quechua.
Yeah. No Quechua? See, okay, so yeah, is it okay if I record a little bit because I'm doing a special project?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I may not use it, but
No,
it's
you
like,
have to let me that.
sure.
No, tell me, how come you're in Arequipa?
All right, so he's asked me how come I'm in Arequipa. Very friendly guy, as you can see, and then we sort of get our conversation started. I see the audio is not super clear, so I'll recap these videos. But let's check this one out.
How long are you going to stay in Arequipa?
1 year, un año.
Great. You know what's coming in Arequipa, one of the organizers. Hey, Festival of Literature and Arts. It's going to be great. Hey, Festival. It's only done in Cartagena and now in Arequipa. Every year it's going to start from now.
Wow.
4 days.
This is very exciting. And so you're helping to do some organizing.
Yes. I am as a representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here.
Okay.
In Arequipa. Diplomat, I'm a career diplomat, and I'm also pianist.
Ah.
Yeah. Who told you about
This is
me?
perfect. This is so amazing.
Combination.
So, I mean, this is kind of my, I've termed what I'm doing, what my project is here, sort of like an ambassador to pianos in Peru. So I'm a piano technician in New York, but I'm here, with my wife, and she has her own projects. And so my project is to find interesting pianos, tell their stories, take care of the pianos, possibly for free as part of a goodwill, kind of just the connection between people. And the stories are the most important thing for this project. And I tell the stories online and I blog about them on our website. So he probably was vague the first thing that he said there, but he said there's this thing coming up in Arequipa called the Hay Festival. And he was one of the organizers of this event, which ended up being a pretty cool event in its own right. Is a cultural festival of literature and art and music and things like this. A little bit of music, mostly of literature and art. And what was cool about having a festival like that was that they invited folks from all over the globe, but it was a relatively small town that they were coming to. So you got a chance to meet some really interesting folks. I met this really fascinating mathematician who had done a lot of actually work integrating math and art. And, where I wouldn't have been able to do this in New York City, being in this town in Peru, I got to meet him personally and go out and have dinner with him and hang out with him, which was really fun. Yes, so Nancy, the floating piano blog is available online here. Yeah, let me give you a link. I don't promote it very heavily, but I'll give you a link so you can check it out at your leisure. And let's see here. I think if you just go to floatingpianoblog.wordpress.com, you should get to take a look at it. I will put that in the chat here. All right. So I'm seeing that the hours passed as it often does quite quickly, and we're probably about time to wrap up. It's maybe a good stopping point. So you got to hear a little bit of this story, and maybe when we can, we'll pick it up again at a later time to sort of be able to review this story and check out some of the videos and photos that I have, and I will actually put a little bit of time into finding maybe some of the archives of the photos, because I only shared like a sampling of the photo and video, of course, on the blog, but I should have a full archive of this footage somewhere in my photo records, and maybe we can get some more pictures of the pianos that I visited and stuff like that. So that should be pretty cool. And then, next week, I guess we'll look out for something that'll be kind of a mix of these two things, Peru, but also coming back and talking about the technicalities of pianos. So we'll have Jonathan Cleghorn next week, and he'll tell us about this vintage Chickering piano that he refurbished in Urubamba, Peru, with the brown action. That we'll learn a little bit about that. And then you can see there in the chat, as always, we put in a feedback form so you can tell us how things have been going for you. have any positives or constructive things to add, we'll take that into account. And if you are not a subscriber already, there's a link to subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour as a subscriber. And that just means, you can look at the archive of all the recordings of these sessions, as well as make it a little bit easier to attend them live, because we'll send you a direct link every week. So you don't have to kind of sort of like search for it online and register uniquely each week. We'll just send you the direct link and make sure you have the recap and the recording. So if you want to sign up for that, Piano Tech Radio Hour Direct Access, there's a link in the chat. And then the final link I put in there was to that WordPress blog, the Floating Piano blog. You can check that out if you like as well. And if you have any questions or anything, I'm happy to follow up about that stuff. All right. Well, it's been another great week. Thanks for having you all here, and we'll catch you next time with Jonathan Cleghorn. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Remember that you can catch us live online every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's right. Go to pianotechradio.com to register so you can interact live and ask questions of our guests.
See you next week.